G'day, I'm UberGiantsBro, and in this video I'm going to show you my personal favourite cheeses that you can use for yourself in solo queue. For clarification, cheese in League of Legends is any sly trick that's used to catch people off guard or nab easy kills. This video is based off an article I wrote, which you can find in the description, and also I'll be giving away $10 RP in my next video, which all you have to do to have a chance of winning that is comment your favourite cheese that you use in solo queue, and I'll pick the winner in my next video. Alright, so let's get into it. Commonly known in low elo as the "we have Blitzcrank, let's invade" strategy, this cheese works surprisingly often in solo queue if your team buys fast. So all you do is tell your team to buy fast in champion select for an invade, and then make a beeline for their blue when the game starts. You can go through mid lane like in this example here, but there's usually someone watching there, so it's probably better to go the other way. Then run straight to the blue and ward it, or just back out if you caught no one. This strat could be risky if your team bought slow, so I recommend you not going if they do buy slow, because it gives the other team more chance to group up. But it's usually a safe invade with a small to medium reward. Another thing you can do is, if you have a Syndra or Blitzcrank, you can hook the blue buff over the wall when it spawns. This one is great for bot, top, and some of those mids that rely on snowballing early like Pantheon, and it requires you to push just a tiny bit so that you can hit level 2 first, and use your level, skill, health, and damage advantage to all-in your opponent. The key to executing this cheese properly lies in its surprise element of how you push the lane. You don't want to push too hard, otherwise they'll just let you push all the way into the tower and back off completely. You want to push just fast enough so that you hit level 2 1 or 2 creeps ahead of them, but not so fast that you scare them off. Alright, this one is a bit tricky. There's also two different types of recall baits, which I'll explain now. This is an old clip of Dyrus demonstrating the fake DC. It's not as good as the second one, but it can work sometimes, and it's hilarious if it does. Simply recall to town inside of your opponent to bait them in closer for a kill. The second one is one of my personal favourites, but it's very hard to pull off. Basically, you stand near a bush as if you're supposed to go into the bush to recall and start your recall, but right before you recall, cancel it and run inside the bush. This may make your opponent think you actually towned and lull them into a false sense of security. Then you kill them. Sneaky Barons are a pretty common cheese in solo queue and can easily be game changing. 15-minute Barons or just early Barons in general are pretty easy to get away with if you play it right. So here's how you do it. The main thing to pulling off a Sneaky Baron is to not make it obvious. Make sure your team is pressuring somewhere else on the map to distract the enemy team, and don't just group near the Baron area like you're defending it, because that's just so obvious. In this example, Fnatic is pressuring all 3 lanes. And so for an early Baron, you need 1 or 2 people that are really good at killing Baron, like Nasus because of his ulti, and Nunu is just another obvious example. There's plenty more that can do it as well. Sneaky Barons are relatively low risk if played correctly, and the reward from Bazkebab is delicious. Just the word makes me cringe. But what is proxying? So proxying is farming behind the enemy turrets so that you can guarantee all of your last hits while keeping your opponent busy at the same time. It can be a bit risky, especially with the changes to death streaks now, where you can still be worth a bit even when you're dying over and over again. But on certain champions and against certain matchups like Shen, this can be a great tactic you can use to pressure the enemy team. So when is the best time to proxy? As Singed, any time is a good time to proxy. But more generally, you might be able to proxy if you get an advantage on your lane opponent through a couple early kills, or if they have a hard time pushing waves like I mentioned with Shen. Champs that are good at proxying are those with quick wave clear or lots of sustain, or both. Good examples are Tryndamere, Singed, Renekton, and Zac. Try it in a normal game before trying it ranked if you haven't tried it before. It is also possible in other lanes, like in this funny video. Counter and double if proxying bot lane, but it's normally only in top lane that people proxy.
This guy is level 1 and 5.
I think this one is fairly self-explanatory in how you do it, but there's a couple of conditions to be able to use this cheese. Firstly, the enemy jungler needs to be starting on the buff closest to the bottom side, and it's preferable if your jungler does as well, otherwise you won't be able to give him a leash. You can do it on purple side as well, at the blue buff, but this is just the example I have for you. In this example, Malphite and Vlad are pretty weak in taking down the buff, but it's still worthwhile because the other jungler misses out on experience and then their gank potential is lowered without the red. Ah, the old ward bait. Put a ward down where the enemy is likely to see it and have some teammates waiting nearby or flanking them. and like a bug attracted to the light, zap them when they get close. Pink wards make awesome bait mid and late game, but just be careful of counter ward baits, as they may be aware you're trying to bait them if you do it more than once. This cheese works at all elos and never gets old, but matures and gets tastier like a good brie. Possibly the oldest trick in the book. Stand in a bush and wait for an enemy to face check it. Simple yet effective, and applicable throughout the game. I'm sure we've all done this at some point, and even the best players have done it, like in this famous face check by Doublelift. If you don't have to give a leash, there are two great places where this usually works. For top lane, wait in the tri-bush if you're on the blue side, or if you're on purple side, wait in that little brush near the river entrance to the lane. If the enemy is leashing blue, they may run up through the river to save time. This is perfect if you have a strong level 1 character, so that you can chunk them right away or possibly kill them. For bot lane, either wait in the tri-bush or in the enemy's lane bush if you're on purple side, or in the river entrance lane bush or the enemy's lane bush if you're on blue side. Same again, wait for them to leash their buff and walk to lane and give them the old Garen treat. That's my list of the best solo queue cheese tactics. Remember to comment your favourite LoL cheeses for a chance to win some RP, and follow me on Twitter for updates on the next video. But if you're impatient and want to get better at League now, check Summoner School at thelolguide.com, which is the only complete League of Legends guide with everything you need to get better at LoL. As usual, links are in the description, and until next time, all the best in solo queue.